Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Apples and Ginos Fantasy Hockey Podcast. My name is Groot Nibbelink. I'm the creator of Apples and Ginos, originator of the Zero G Draft Strategy. And this podcast, Blake and I are going to continue with the fifth part of our annual 8-episode series in which we go team by team comparing notes on our projections for the 2025-26 season. Let's get it. And of course, I have your friend and my best friend. It's Blake Creamer. Blake, how are you feeling tonight?
I'm feeling good, man. Any night that I get to spend talking fantasy puck with you, buddy, is a good night. All right. It's happy summer, everybody. The vibes are high, and Nate and I are basically just trying to get those vibes even higher. We're going deep. We go deep on the players, and we go deep on the V's. All right. You get your biscuits over to YouTube, and you do it now if you want to see some chesticles hanging out right in front of your face. All right. Nate's got a deep V. I got a deep V. We're getting to biz. And what could be better than this?
What could be better than some deep V's on an early August evening talking about four teams: the New Jersey Devils, the New York Islanders, New York Rangers, and Ottawa Senators. We're diving right in with the Devils here. Key departures, nothing too crazy. Eric Holla, Thomas Tatar. I don't think either of those are really anything that we're going to be too worried about for fantasy purposes anyway. Additions: Evgeny Dodonov, Connor Brown, and Arseny Grutsyuk potentially joining the forward core here. Now, I think on the surface, none of this really matters, but I think what's really key is if they can figure out a little bit more how to round out that top six when fully healthy. They tried Stefan Nason in that spot in a lot of different scenarios last year. Obviously, Jack Hughes being out of the lineup caused them to have to try even more new things, but definitely I think that's what they're looking for. They're looking for guys who might be able to play higher up the lineup if called upon. I think they're looking for that specifically out of Dodonov and Brown, and I think there's a chance they've got it.
Yeah, that actually makes sense. Connor Brown played with Connor McDavid for a little bit, right? He's played in the top six in Edmonton for a cup of coffee, all right? And then he got bounced down where he belongs, okay? But it's a nice signing in real life. Just shores up that Devils third line, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And Evgeny Dodonov, I mean, pretty low risk move. The guy's definitely got some offense. He's not going to be able to realize it on the fourth line there, but again, another guy that can play up and down the lineup and even on the power play if they so choose.
All right, let's talk about the coach here, Sheldon Keefe, returning for his second year as head coach. Honestly, Keefe, for fantasy purposes, really, really solid. Creates some of the best offensive environments known to man. Leans on his star players. What isn't there to love when it comes to Sheldon Keefe for fantasy purposes?
Well, I'll tell you what, buddy. All right, I actually don't have too much that I don't love about Sheldon Keefe, but there's some interesting things that I noticed just diving in on this team here. Before Sheldon Keefe was hired, this was easily the best rush team out there, right? The Devils did that, but they also gave up a lot defensively, right? And so Keefe came in, and it seems to me he's doing kind of a hybrid. Like, he allows players like Jack Hughes and Jesper Bratt to get the biz, but he also expects a lot from them, getting back in the play if they give the puck up. So, it's interesting. I think, Jack Hughes in particular is a player that I want to watch have a full season under Sheldon Keefe. I feel like he takes a little bit off the top on Jack Hughes just because of the way Sheldon Keefe likes to play. But, we've talked about really good players as well, kind of getting our long leash, and I think he'll give Jack Hughes that as well. But yeah, it's interesting too. I was looking at possession entry percentage on some of the things that I look at here, and the New Jersey Devils were 19th this past season, but they were third the year before. So they're dumping the puck out a lot more. And that's something that Jack Hughes that's not really his style. And that's something that Sheldon Keefe does. So I'm just interested to see what happens with them. But I mean, they still led the league in 5-on-5 zone entries, all that stuff. And all this to say, Sheldon Keefe is a stud. He's going to play his guys. But yeah, it's not your grandmother's New Jersey Devils, all right, from 2 years ago.
I guess not. The power play here, Jack Hughes, Nico Hischier, Jesper Bratt all feel like locks. Keefe, for I honestly don't know in New Jersey who's in charge of the power play. I don't know if it's Keefe directly or if he's working with assistants on this, but they tried everyone except Timo Meyer last year. My sole question is, can we not this upcoming year? Like, do we really have to go through Stefan Nason getting pucks bounced in off him, and then Jack Hughes is injured, and they're like, oh wait, now Stefan Nason doesn't work anymore because no one is bouncing pucks in off him. Anyway, that's my rants. Can we just put the best players on the ice together all the time?
I would love to see it. Something again, I'm scratching the surface on when I look into these metrics and stuff, but it's the handedness I think that they really like with Stefan Nason there. He's a right-handed shot. So they overload one side on Jack Hughes' side. That's sort of what they like to do. And it kind of opens things up for Nason a little bit when they do that. So I don't know. Meyer makes sense to me on there. He's easily a much better player than Nason. I think he'll spend maybe a little bit more time on the power play this year, Timo Meyer, but I wouldn't be surprised if they start with the power play one and Nason's on that top unit.
Yeah, unfortunately, that wouldn't surprise me one bit either. The other big question here, Dougie Hamilton versus Luke Hughes for power play one. This actually has huge ramifications for fantasy purposes because this is a terrific power play. It's going to work, regardless almost of the personnel outside of Hughes, Hischier, Bratt.
Yeah.
If you get Luke Hughes on the back end, pretty sure it'll work. If you get Dougie Hamilton on the back end, pretty sure it'll work. It'll look different with the two of them. Dougie Hamilton, much more of a shooter, a lot more active, from the point and getting a shot through. Luke Hughes, a little bit more of a facilitator, but also obviously a terrific skater and able to facilitate and move around and do all the things that the other guys like to do there as well. I've been kind of touting this offseason that this could be the year that Luke Hughes really takes over and everything that I like to look at. He did take a pretty huge step last year, and
Yep.
it looks like this could be the year where he finally ascends and becomes one of the league's elite defensemen. I don't think that's too much of a stretch. I think we see obviously the older brothers here and their ascension to superstar level in the NHL, and it's hard not to envision that same path for Luke Hughes, especially given the talent. Like, he's the biggest of the brothers, and
Right.
he still has a lot of the same skating attributes that the other two have. So what's your take on it right now, Blake? When the curtain rolls back on the 2025-26 season, who comes out with the top power play for game one?
Oh, God, it's going to be Luke Hughes, I think. Top power play right off the bat. I think he has a lot on his side, to be honest, as well. Like you said, both guys will absolutely smash on the power play, but it becomes a different power play. Dougie Hamilton is a big-time shooter from the back end. He's just firing pucks like a forward back there, which is really nice, but it's a different look, right? I think this Devils power play, they're elite in terms of their expected goals for. I think they were number one in the league. And they do that, I think, through puck possession. And I think when you got guys like Jesper Bratt and Jack Hughes, like, yeah, let these guys cook, right? And I think one of the things that is in Luke Hughes' favor is, again, the handedness, right? Dougie Hamilton is right-handed. Luke Hughes is left-handed. So, again, if you're using which, like, I've watched some of the New Jersey Devil power play. This is how deep I'm getting into this crap, by the way. What is wrong with me? But in a lot of the power plays that I saw, the Devils power play, it's a lot of Jack Hughes on the left side, right? And so, you got a guy on the left side bringing the puck in. You want to have a left-handed defenseman at the point, as opposed to a right-handed defenseman over on the left side where he's kind of cut off, right? He's got his back to have to play. So if you got a left-handed guy on the quarterback, I think that's a little bit better thing there. And I also think that Jack Hughes wants to play with his brother. So I just think that Luke Hughes has a lot of things in his favor. He's up and coming. Dougie Hamilton is old hat, let's say. But it's gonna be really tough for fantasy because I've projected them. I've kind of hedged my bets on both players as well, right? And I'm pretty sure you probably have too, haven't you?
Yeah, I split it right down the middle, 2.5 minutes for each of them. It's worth noting that Dougie Hamilton was the guy last year. When healthy, Dougie Hamilton was on power play one. They did take away a lot of his even strength minutes and give him those power play minutes, and so that is a real option for them again this year. So we can't discount that either, even if we're kind of seeing what we hope at least is reading the tea leaves correctly, that this could be the year that they turn Luke Hughes into the franchise defenseman.
Let's go.
Let's dig in on projections here. Jack Hughes off the top, I have for 37 goals, 62 assists, 99 points. You have him for 41 goals, 57 assists, 98 points. So obviously we're pretty close here. The biggest topic of conversation with Jack Hughes is obviously the injury-prone moniker that's been applied to him. Has had multiple shoulder injuries. How are you approaching the injury risk first off? Because I think we're both in consensus that if there was no risk whatsoever, he would be probably a top 9, top 10 pick in every draft.
Yeah, and that's fair to say. I mean, you and I definitely talk about, ignoring the injury risk, but we don't give you 100% of our thought process, folks. All right, we have a little bit like in the tank, and I would say injury stuff to me is like a tiebreaker. If I'm really torn between two guys, I might go with the guy who I think is a little bit more durable, but at the end of the day, this guy is one of the most talented offensive players in the league. And we've talked about in pretty much every episode that we've had about these projections is being in on a player that's that talented. And I don't know, these injuries, like they're still kind of fluky. Like one, he like tripped and fell into the boards, and it's all kind of these ticky tack plays that I don't know. I'm not ready to not be in on Jack Hughes because of a few injuries. I mean, that said, it's been pretty hard, right? Like you pick Hughes early, he's sliding down a couple spots each year now, I think, because of this exact narrative. But I'm still comfortable taking him in the 9, 10, 11, 12 range in the first round. If you can get him later than that, oh my God. Like this is a guy that should get 100 points. Like I said, I think with Sheldon Keefe, maybe they're shaving a little off the top there, but 95 to 100 points, I think we're locked in.
Yeah, I am tending to discount most of this. I believe it's a different shoulder. I was trying to find the reports back, but I believe he had the left shoulder dislocation earlier in his career, and this is the right shoulder that he injured this most recent time.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it's anything that we can say like, he's completely messed up his shoulder, and now it'll
Yeah.
either A, affect his play, or B, be much more likely to be injured again in the future. Certainly there's some level of concern, but it's not enough of a concern for me to, go to a whole different tier of player. That's the
Yeah.
biggest concern for me when, just shaving the top off the upside of my team. That being said, if you want to play it safe with your first round pick, it's pretty hard to go against that. We do preach, playing it safe through the first 3 rounds, getting the core of your team established, going for floor early, and then take your upside swings late. So that is another way to look at the situation with Jack Hughes this year. Andre Palat has been Jack Hughes' most common left winger over the last few years. It's probably time for that not to be the case anymore. I have him for 13 goals, 16 assists, 29 points. You have him for 14 goals, 15 assists, 29 points. I don't really want to talk about Andre Palat. He's barely going to reach 100 shots. Over 100 hits, I guess, is okay. But even with all this Jack Hughes exposure, the guy can barely put the puck in the net.
That's Nate's way of telling me to keep it moving when we get to Andre Palat. But yeah, I mean, for fantasy, we're not interested at all. Like this is a streamer for sure when New Jersey has a good schedule. But I think he should stick with Jack Hughes just because he's really good defensively. And he's the guy kind of getting those D zone touches and kind of connecting Jack Hughes to the play. And he's got some tenure with Jack Hughes as well. So I don't see him getting off that top line, but I don't see him getting minutes really anywhere else up the lineup.
Right, next up, Jesper Bratt, I have for 24 goals, 66 assists, 90 points this year. You have him for 25 goals, 59 assists, 84 points. So we do have a little bit of a difference here. This is actually the biggest difference between us on any New Jersey player, 6.3 points different in our projections. We can dig in a little bit here. Let's start with the obvious. I have him for 37 power play points. What do you got, Blake?
Yeah, I mean, that's really it. I've got him for 33, right? Which is still elite. But yeah, I mean, that's 4 points right there.
Yeah, that's probably it then. I can see some level of being reticent to project the power play to be back where it was the year before. But again, if you're looking at any metric, that power play was truly elite last year. And I don't really have a good reason to suggest that it won't be once again. I think it only gets better if they put Timo Meyer on it. So they have multiple outs to a top tier, power play quarterback between Luke Hughes and Dougie Hamilton. Really, the only way the power play gets significantly worse in my mind is if Jack Hughes gets injured once again. and then they have some difficulty making it work after that. I honestly feel pretty good about them just having a monstrous power play year once again, and Jesper Bratt being a pretty big part of that. Another reason I'm into Jesper Bratt is he actually does cover categories like
Mm.
quite well. 200 shots, over a hit per game I have him for, so he has some sneaky appeal in Bangers Cats too.
Yeah, I'm really big on the player. I'm not down on him. That's for sure. It's
Yeah.
just I did shave a little bit off the power play because when you have such an elite power play one year, like just look at the New York Rangers, who we'll talk about a little bit later, right? Like,
Hmm.
and I don't have an amazing reason for this other than yes, there is some variance that happens in a power play from year to year, right? They were number one with a bullet in terms of offensive generation, right? I think they were third in percentage, right? But in terms of just actually generating offense, they were number one. In terms of generating shots, they were number one. So yeah, it makes sense to me for a big power play projection for Jesper Bratt. I just feel like I want to be a little bit cautious with that. Like I'm still got him for a big number 33, but yeah, for him to all of a sudden go to now a 37-point power play, I'm not sure I'm here for that. I feel like there's gonna New Jersey's certainly going to be a top 10 in the power play, I think. But yeah, I don't. I'm not convinced that it's going to be number one again. And also, I think, yeah, hey, Jeffrey Bratt at even strength had a really big jump at IPP as well. So there's a little bit there. Not that that's not sustainable, but I think he jumped from like 66% at even strength to 74%, which is, yeah, that's significant, right? And he did it over 82 games. So it's not like it's not real. But I think there's probably a tiny bit of regression at even strength, and then just not that crazy high, and maybe it's not crazy high that you've got there, but just not that big number 37, and that's how I came up with my projection.
Yeah, makes sense to me. The thing I was really looking at is, do I believe that they can generate the same kind of volume that they did last year? Uh, they jump up from in the high 60s, low 70s scoring chances for per 60 to 90 scoring chances for per 60 with
Bang.
Jesper Bratt on the ice
Yeah.
on the power play last year, and while maintaining this 17+% on ice shooting percentage multiple years now. So that was what kind of gave me the confidence to go ahead and give him that high projection. Probably towards the high end of the projection, though. I will definitely allow that. Nico Hischier, 36 goals, 46 assists, 82 points for me. 33 goals, 43 assists, 76 points for you. So a little bit of a difference here for us as well. I'm higher on Hischier. Probably a good chunk of that is on the power play, where I do have him for 31 points as well. He is a pretty solid part of that power play. Not the guy that it goes through, but definitely a guy who finishes a lot of plays for the Devils on the power play. I think that Nico Hischier is probably one of the more underrated players in a lot of drafts. I've seen him go pretty late in some of our mocks, a
Yeah.
lot later than I think he should be going. So definitely think that Nico Hischier, again, he's not like, we talk about Kadri and these guys who go like quite late as the poster boys for why you should fade centers early. Hischier's going to go earlier than those guys, I think, for sure, but still a guy that you can probably get in like the seventh, maybe eighth round in some of your drafts, and you're absolutely cooking with gas getting them there.
Yeah, there's kind of this mushy middle of centers, isn't there? In that like 7-round, 8-round range, like guys like Dylan Larkin, Rupe Hintz, Nico Hischier, like these are all guys that probably deserve to be drafted a lot higher, but because they're center only, it's like you fade them, right? And I think they fall down the draft boards. But we both have pretty damn healthy projections for this guy, and yeah, again, it's just power play for me. I'm just projecting the power play to just level off just a little bit, and I think it just takes a bit off the top. But I've got him for 29 power play points, which is ties a career high. It's what he got last season. I feel good about that, and he had 69 points in 75 games last year. I think with a healthy Jack Hughes all season, then Nico Hischier is going to be facing, not the top defensive line every single night. So there's a little bit of juice to be squeezed at even strength as well. So I'm a big fan of the player, and I find myself with these centers. I pass them every time in the draft, and I think I don't want that to catch up to me at some point. I think we got to be locking up some of these guys. Rob Thomas is another one, right? Like he's not doing anything peripherally, but there's just guys like this that you need to have on your squad. And I'm definitely a big fan of Hischier, and he had a monster year on the power play, 14 power play goals. My God.
All right, Timo Meyer next up, 27 goals, 35 assists, 63 points with the roundup for me. 30 goals, 34 assists, 64 points for you, Blake. Timo Meyer is going to do everything that you want for fantasy. I have him for 249 shots, 141 hits, 62 blocks. He does all that and then some. Did get a pretty solid chunk of time on ice at even strength last year, but was not a featured member of the top power play, at least until Jack Hughes went down to injury. But Timo Meyer has proven himself to be really, really effective on the power play, big time volume shooter, and really efficient as well on the power play. So if he gets that, his potential is really, really high to score a lot of points there, in my opinion. I have him for only 18 power play points with this projection. He could approach 30, maybe not get to 30, but approach 30 with power play one all year long, which would add another 10 points right off the top, and a good chunk of those would probably be goals. So I am pretty into Meyer. I feel like I'm seeing him go in like the 6th round in a bunch of drafts with this combination of shots, hits, blocks, everything that you can ask for from a guy like Timo Meyer. I think you're kind of getting him a little bit at his floor, and you might just get a little bit more juice to squeeze if he does get that power play.
We're squeezing the juice all over the place. That feels good. Now I'm thirsty. All right. Thirsty for some. I don't know. I was gonna say something stupid there. Yeah, have a drink, Nate. Yeah, that's fine. Timo Meyer's a beauty. I love what you said. We're drafting a guy at his floor, and I feel like that's a really smart way to draft too, especially if you're in the 5th or 6th round. Like, you know what you're getting. You can feel good about what you're getting, but there are outs for him to get even more, right? And like you said, it's going to be power play one. This guy is an absolute unit when it comes to shot and chance generation. Individually, it's insane. He's playing with a great facilitator in Nico Hischier. And if he plays up with Jack Hughes, that's even better, right? It's just that power play. And I'm not convinced that they're going to put him on there. I think it's going to be more of the same Stefan Noesen show. Stefan Noesen is, to me, he's a power play specialist, and he does well there. There's a reason this power play was, number 1 in the league in expected goals for and 3rd in percentage. Stefan Noesen was a part of that. So we can't poo-poo the man, but I think they could do just as well with Timo Meyer, and it would be so much better for fantasy. Sheldon Keefe, please get Timo Meyer on the power play. Give him some more minutes. I miss San Jose Timo Meyer. You remember those days, Nate?
I do remember those days. He was getting every minute known to mankind, kind of like what Mikael Granlund had going there before
Yeah.
his trade. Those were the good old days for fantasy for sure. Let's talk about Stefan Noesen here. I have him for 21 goals, 23 assists, 44 points. You have him for 22 goals, 23 assists, 45 points. That for me is coming with 15 power play points. I have him at the same power play time on ice as Timo Meyer, which is 2 minutes 15 seconds. So I am kind of hedging my bets a little bit between the two of them there. Not really sure which way I'm going to lean eventually.
Yeah.
Trying to will Timo Meyer onto that top power play, but in terms of the actual minutes, I am just kind of splitting it down the middle.
Yeah. This is going to be a player that I think should be on your team, right? I mean, this is a really good, like, late round pick. You might have to pick him a little earlier because people are probably going to expect that he's going to be on power play one. But I mean, ultimately, every bit of value that he has is from that power play. So when he's off the power play, it's terrible times, right? And this is a guy I touted last year as a guy I was interested in because he was getting even strength chances as well. It wasn't just on the power play, but I don't think the even strength stuff is something we can expect. He's very much a supplementary piece on that line. He's the forecheck guy. He's the board battle guy. Get it to Nico Hischier, get it to Timo Meyer, and let them cook. But yeah, it's all about the power play with Noesen. And the truth is, he's a really good power play performer. There's no question about that. And it's interesting to me. Like, I remember when he was with Carolina, and we're like, who the hell is Stefan Noesen? Like, what? Get off there. You got Svech in the wings and you got Noesen on here. This is terrible. Well, he's doing it again. And there's a reason that he's doing it, is because this guy is really good net front. He's got a pretty silky set of mitts there, and he can really shoot the puck. So I'm a fan of the guy. He's a beefer as well. But yeah, this is like the opposite of Timo Meyer, right? You're drafting a ceiling, right? So yeah, and expect it to fall off if he gets off power play one.
All right, let's talk about the third line in brief here. Dawson Mercer, I have for 20 goals, 15 assists, 35 points. You have him for the exact same. Evgeny Dodonov, I have for 16 goals, 24 assists, 40 points. You have him for 15 goals, 20 assists, 36 points with the roundup. Connor Brown, 12 goals, 17 assists, 29 points for me. You have him for 10 goals, 19 assists, also 29 points. Of these three, Blake, are there any of them that you'd be legitimately excited if they moved up the lineup that you'd actually be kind of interested in?
Excited is not the word, but Dawson Mercer, if he could get right wing on that second line, which he has in the past, like they bumped Nason down, they put Mercer up there. Like he can do stuff, and maybe I'm just being nostalgic. There was like 2 years ago where there was a 10-game stretch where Dawson Mercer was just going bonkers. He had like 15 points, he's scoring a bunch of goals, and then he was never heard from again. All right, but this is a guy. He's still young. I think he's playing sheltered minutes. He's good defensively, right? He's great with his zone exits. He's a good forechecker, so he checks all the boxes as a third line center. But I do think that he has a little bit more in the tank. He's just not being put in positions to be offensive. So yeah, I guess if I had to answer your question, I would say Dawson Mercer. Connor Brown's just a burner. He's a solid defensive guy. Evgeny Dodonov, I mean, sure, if he gets moved up the lineup, like yeah, what did he get last year? Like 40 points or something playing in Dallas, but he was in the top 6 at points and getting some power play time. I don't see the same opportunity here for Dodonov, so I guess it would be Mercer. Yeah, what about you?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty off the Mercer train at this point. I feel like we've given him enough chances to do something, and realistically, I don't think he's going to be that guy. Dodonov, I actually would have a little bit of interest in, especially if he could line up with Heischer and Meyer, two guys who can finish.
Mhm.
Dodonov, to me, is a guy like you look at the high danger assists in Corey Schneider's all three zones tracking. It's really good, actually, from Evgeny Dodonov. So I think there is a little bit of a scenario, at least, where he could get himself onto that line and provide something a little different that they haven't had there before and find some chemistry, and that could actually work out. Do I think that that's most likely? Am I drafting Dodonov as a result? No, but if one of those guys were to move up, Dodonov would be the one that I would have the most interest in. All right, let's talk about the two defensemen now. I have Luke Hughes for 11 goals, 40 assists, 51 points. You have him for 12 goals, 43 assists, rounding down to 54 points. So you're a little bit higher on him here. I'm curious just to see how you've split the power play here, Blake. I ended up having both Luke Hughes and Dougie Hamilton for 20 power play points apiece. I think there's a chance that Hamilton kind of retains his role as the incumbent, but then Luke Hughes eventually takes it over. How are you seeing Luke Hughes versus Dougie Hamilton on the power play there to start?
I've got it pretty even,
Yeah.
honestly. And this is hard in projections, right? Like you want to take swings. We actually had a comment on one of our YouTube videos recently. It's like, you guys are down on everybody, or you're not projecting these big breakouts. It's like there needs to be a reason. You know what I mean? There
Mm-hmm.
needs to be a reason for a guy to just all of a sudden pop off. And if we haven't seen it historically, like we're trying to give you accurate information. So why would we project some crazy thing that hasn't happened before? So, that said too, it's like you got two studs that can play quarterback on the power play. Dougie Hamilton's the incumbent, right? I've got them for even minutes, right? I'm not willing to just all of a sudden be like, Luke Hughes is getting 3 minutes, Dougie Hamilton's getting a minute and a half. Book it, right? It's just we can't do that at this point of the season. Training camp is a little different, right? You see what happens in training camp, and then you believe everything you see, and then you go that way. No, that's not true. But anyways, I've got Luke Hughes for 22 power play points. I've got Dougie for 17. I do believe, I've got them projected evenly, but I do believe that Luke Hughes is going to be the one with more power play points at the end of the year and probably more power play time. And it's just for those reasons that I mentioned. Like, I think the left-handed shot, the familiarity with his brother, and the ability to facilitate and not just be kind of a hammer the way that Dougie Hamilton is.
Right. For myself, I do think that this could be the year for Hughes. Like I said, I think he took a legit step last year. Could very well become one of the league's elite if he fulfills all of that potential. The great size, the great skating, great intelligence. For fantasy, the ding is that he doesn't really shoot and he doesn't really hit. So those are two pretty big factors in fantasy
Yeah.
hockey, but Again, you look at the all-three zone stuff, 5v5, it's just off the charts. All looks terrific. It's easy to forget how young Luke Hughes is, that he's only got a few seasons under his belt, that defensemen typically take a little while um, to really reach their own. And this guy is only going to turn 22 in September this year. So I think there's every chance that Luke Hughes takes the next step in his development this year and just makes it so obvious that he has to be the guy on the top power play. That's what I'm interested in when I'm, clicking the button on Luke Hughes, even if the projection doesn't necessarily say that he should be drafted where I'm going to draft him.
Yes.
And I'm buying the upside. I'm buying the elite underlying profile, the elite ascension profile from a very young defenseman who's shown us everything under the hood that we like to look at. That's what you're buying when you're buying on Luke Hughes. You're buying that breakout, right?
Well
And
said.
even if we can't project it exactly that way, like I think it's well within the range of possibilities that Luke Hughes scores 70 points this year. I don't think that's a crazy statement to make. I think that's completely possible. Dougie Hamilton, the other one here, 13 goals, 38 assists, 51 points for me, 13 goals, 37 assists, 50 points for you, Blake. So again, a guy that we would be much higher on if it was an assured power play role.
Big
A
time.
guy that we'd also be higher on if Sheldon Keefe had actually given him any even strength ice time last year. Like one of the biggest decisions in my mind that Sheldon Keefe made with this team was to immediately cut Dougie Hamilton's even strength ice time by 2.5 minutes. It was a huge drop off for Dougie Hamilton in even strength minutes, and that really did affect his fantasy potential. So I don't really have a good reason to expect something different this year. If you look at the depth chart for the New Jersey Devils, like they have all these guys. They have Hamilton, Pesci, Dillon, Kovacevic, Siegenthaler, Hughes, and then they have Seaman Nemec and Seamus Casey also just kind of waiting in the wings here. Like they have 7 or 8 defensemen that could play right now and play at or above a third pair level. So I think that there's not really much reason to expect that Dougie Hamilton gets more minutes than he got last year. And there's also a little bit of a chance that, yeah, he just doesn't have power play one. And now you're dealing with a guy who's really efficient and shoots a lot, but he's in just such a lower minute role that's like 18 minutes a night.
Mhm.
And now it's really tough to get excited about what he's bringing to the table for fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, I'll still be excited about him though. This guy, in terms of defenseman, like I said, he shoots like a forward. He's in the 96th percentile in shot contributions in the NHL. This he's electric out there. He's really good at that. But yeah, I think what I was saying about Sheldon Keefe and sort of expecting from his players kind of that really big hustle on defense and having that accountability. I think it's not one of Dougie's fortes. You know what I mean? Not that he's not accountable, but he's just that's not what he's good at. Like I'm looking at some of his all three zone stuff, like exit success rate, like 14 percentile. So that says to me, like he's giving the puck up a lot, right? And then entry chance prevention, right? People are entering the zone on his side and getting scoring chances, right? So those are two things right there off the bat. It's like Dougie's just a player. He's all gas, no brakes. And that's great for fantasy, but we need minutes, just to your point there. So I don't think he'll get down to the 18-minute thing, but I do see him getting off power play one. I could see him more as like a Jacob Chikrin this year, as opposed to like, the Dougie Hamilton can score 70 points.
All right. We've reached that point. Blake, give it to me.
Give it to me, Neil. Yo, Neil is giving it to us, and it feels good. All right. It absolutely feels good. Thank you, Neil. My number one target. I'm going to take Jesper Bratt, even though I had a lesser projection for him. I think that we're going to get Jesper Bratt at value. It's a guy that should get point per game. We're getting him in the late third round. I've seen him go in the fourth round. Jesper Bratt in the fourth round. My God. I mean, that's insane. So I just think there's a lot of value there for a really offensive player that has access to Jack Hughes. Jack Hughes would be number one, obviously, but I didn't put him there. But I'm very interested in Jack Hughes as well. Number two, Timo Meier, for all the reasons we mentioned. You're drafting floor, and that floor is rock solid. Like that floor is a fifth round player. So anything on top of that, we're bumping him up there. And then Luke Hughes as my number three. I'm excited about the player. And again, the value in ADP, I think, is going to be there come draft day. I think this is a guy you can get from like 85 to 115. I bet he'll be in that range for ADP. And I think he'll be able to smash that ADP, no question. I do believe he'll be power play 1. So that's my 2 cents. What do you got, Nate?
Yeah, for me, number 1 is Timo Meyer for the reasons we've already talked about. Number 2 will be Luke Hughes, hoping for that big breakout. We're in on guys like Chikrin. We're in on guys like we talked about. Actually, we talked about this exact thing with Chikrin last year. We're like, man, the projection doesn't come out too hot here, but man, the guy has so much talent. I just got to be in on the player,
Love
and
that.
I was in on the player, and it paid off on some of my teams. So, similar to Chikrin, similar to guys like Werenski, who we've been in on for a long time. When you identify a player with talent, you sometimes need to take that player, and when the opportunity strikes, when they're given that deployment that they need to really take off for fantasy purposes, then you've got them. If you never take the player just betting that they won't get the deployment, maybe that's the Nick Ehlers syndrome or something. But if you never take the player, you'll never reap the rewards when they do break out.
That's profound.
Lastly, lastly here, Jack Hughes. I'm just not going to be that scared off. I'm not sure exactly where I'll have him ranked in, my final rankings or anything, but definitely in the first round. I'm just not going to go to a second tier talent just to be scared off of something. That's just not how I play fantasy hockey. I'm here to win. I'm here to play the best players, and Jack Hughes is a guy that I'll absolutely take in the first round every time. All right, moving along, the New York Islanders.
Yay.
Yeah, unfortunately, this is a team with more key departures than key additions, at least in terms of impact. No Dobson and Brock Nelson on their way out. Key additions: Maxim Shabanov comes over from the KHL. Jonathan Drouin, Matthew Schaefer, the number 1 overall pick. Yet to see if he's going to stick in the NHL. I think he played 17 OHL games last year. It might not be the smartest idea to have him go straight to the NHL, but we will wait and see on that. I think overall, you have to anticipate, at least in the first part of the season, this is a net negative for the Islanders.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't look good, right? Noah Dobson in particular. Like, we'll get into the decor here, but that show ain't no good. You're not replacing him with Matthew Schaefer this year, right? So, it's going to be a season of transition, I think, for the Islanders. But there's also some interesting pieces too with Lou Lamoriello leaving and potentially the vibes getting better. But I do like Maxim Shabanov. I'm excited to talk about that player. I watched a lot of film on him, and I don't know, man. He's getting me juiced a little bit. He's giving me like some Michkov light vibes. So I don't know. I'm excited to talk about that player.
All right. Let's talk about the coach first. Patrick Watt returns, and we don't know how to feel about that. At least I don't, Blake.
No, I'm with
I
you.
guess I shouldn't speak for you, but yeah, split the power play at times. He kind of weirdly minimized Brock Nelson last year, who was one of their best players. Even when Barzal was out, didn't feel like Nelson was getting all the run that he should have. Also, it's really hard to underestimate how badly constructed this team was by Lou Lamoriello. Now he's out. Matthew Darche is going to have a chance to put his stamp on this team. So I don't want to, ding Patrick Waugh for the sins of his general manager either. In terms of, the roster construction here, I'd say was up there with some of the signings that Detroit has made over the years that have really hamstrung their ability to attract and retain top end talent. So, tough to really give Waugh too much of a failing grade, but it also doesn't feel terrific right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be a show me year for Patrick Waugh because I read a bunch of articles actually just talking about sort of the clash that Patrick Waugh had with Lou Lamoriello and kind of in the play style that they wanted. Like Lamoriello, this guy's an old dog. He's a dinosaur. It was time for him to move on, right? So I think Patrick Waugh was handcuffed a little bit, and that's kind of the story I'm telling myself. But I do believe the leash isn't going to be that long here, right? Because there's some other things at play. Just the way he's handled players, Anthony Duclair in particular, like that was a debacle. You know what I mean? And when I see a coach do something like that, for those of you who don't know, he basically just called the guy out in the most brutal way. And to the point where Anthony Duclair like took a leave of absence from the team for the last like 2 weeks of the season, right? Like that show ain't no good. That's not what a leader does. So, I have seen stuff that Patrick Waugh has come out and said he wants to apologize as well. So that's good, right? Like everybody makes mistakes. This guy's a player. He's a hot-headed guy, as we all know. But yeah, I think he's going to try and put his stamp more on the team. But to your point as well, this roster still is not very good. So, I mean, he's behind the 8 ball here. And I think he's probably going to be the sacrificial lamb while the Islanders sort of go through this transitional phase.
All right, let's get into the power play. Potential for split power play is quite concerning for me, especially because the personnel is kind of all up in the air for me right now. It makes sense to go with the Barzal Horvat locks. That combination has worked basically whenever they've been put together, even strength power play, it has worked. So to me, those are the locks if they go true power play 1. Let's start there, Blake. Do you agree with Barzal and Horvat as the only true locks? And what are you thinking about the possibility for a split power play?
I actually don't see the split power play here. I just don't see the talent on the roster. So I feel like he'll run a true power play or closer to a true power play than he did last season. But who's going to be on it? That's more the question, right? There are a bunch of pieces here that potentially make sense. Like Cal Palmieri had like a weirdly good year in terms of some of his metrics. And you got Shabanov coming in here. You got Anthony Duclair. Like, what's his role going to be now after he talks to Patrick Waugh coming back on the team? Is he going to be on the top line? Anders Lee, is he going to get power play 1? So, I feel like, long story short, it will be closer to a top, like a true power play 1, but I don't know who's going to be on it, to be honest.
Yeah, it does feel like Patrick Waugh's approach to the power play was a bit extemporaneous throughout the season.
What?
For myself, Lee, Duran, Palmieri, I think those are the guys that you're looking at as the other potential members of the top power play. Shabana will probably get a look if the power play continues to struggle through the year. But I kind of just doubt, just as the new guy on the block, that he's gonna just walk right in from the KHL and be inserted right on the top power play. I've been wrong before, but that would be my guess. And so, if you had to guess, Blake, based on what you've seen so far, Anders Lee, Jonathan Drouin, Kyle Palmieri, or would you add somebody else as the potential top power play?
Yeah, I think I read an interview with Patrick Waugh, so I mean, take it for what it's worth. But he said that he wants to start Drouin and Shabanov on the flanks on the power play. So this is what he said in an interview in August, right? So that could absolutely change moving forward. So I think Drouin's going to get the first look there. It's either going to be Lee or Shabanov to me that takes that other spot. And then D'Angelo on the back end is sort of the way I'm seeing it right now. But that could all change. This power play was god awful last year, right? But that said, too, they were without their best player, easily their best player in Mathew Barzal. So again, it's going to be a kind of a show me year here, like in a lot of ways, right? I don't know that we can look at last year with the Islanders and judge it too harshly because of kind of the injuries they had and some of the extracurricular things that were going on around the team.
Right, and on the back end, Tony DeAngelo, power play 1 quarterback. Matthew Schaefer in the wings here. I've had some questions about this already.
You got to put your collar up when you talk about Tony D. All right, that's what I'm doing. Yeah, that's fine.
Where are you at with the conversation here? I guess it really depends what your thoughts are on Schaefer, the player, first.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of Schaefer, but the sample size is so small. Like you said, what did he play? Like, I was surprised that he got drafted number 1 overall. I mean, not surprised because of all the people that I trust that I talked to saying how good he was, but yeah, it's a small sample size. So does it make sense for him to come into the league and play 20 minutes top power play? Like, not really. And when you got a guy that is good at running a power play in Tony DeAngelo, I think, yeah, you want to start off on the right foot. And I think Tony D is the one to do that.
Yeah, to me, it really feels like D'Angelo is the guy that they put on the top power play. They showcase him all year, maximize his value, trade him to Toronto at the trade deadline. It feels like it's already been written.
That's right. Get your Tony D bobblehead, all right? Just don't cross the streams anywhere near it, all right? Because it could get wet.
All right, let's dig in on some projections here. Bo Horvat, I have for 33 goals, 27 assists, 60 points. You have him for 31 goals, 29 assists, and 60 points. So obviously pretty tight here. I think the interesting part here is that there is some stated desire to play Barzal back at center, which would obviously mean Horvat and Barzal on different lines and kind of taking away both players' best case scenarios in my
Yeah.
mind. So I am factoring that in. I do think that Jonathan Drouin probably fits. I mean, it's definitely not exact, but in terms of being a playmaker, I think that's what they're envisioning anyway, as the playmaker on the Horvat line to help set up Horvat's legitimate shooting ability. I
Yeah.
just feel a little bit squeamish about how that might actually work out in practicality.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we want to see the best version of Bo Horvat this year, he needs to play with Matt Barzal, right? And I agree with you. I don't think that's going to happen. In fact, in the same article I was reading, Patrick Waugh said he wants to start Barzal at center, and we've heard that story before, right? Willie Nylander, he's playing center. It's like no, we don't know, right? But it sounds like they want Barzal to play center. That's his natural position, apparently. He's done that before. I feel like getting him on the wing opens him up for more offense, so that's great, which is something that the Islanders need. But I mean, this, I'm talking about Barzal right now. But let's get back to Horvat. Yeah, he had such a bad year on the power play too, Bo Horvat. Like 7 power play points last year after 18 the year before. Like that's really it. That's why he had such a poor year. Like it was 57 points in 81 games. He's a lot better than that. The microstats show a pretty elite shot and chance generator in Bo Horvat, right? It pains me to say, right? This guy just tooted in all the Canucks fans' faces, but this is a guy that you absolutely need to get going. He's the second best offensive player on this team, and I think he can. I think he can drive a line with, let's say it's Kyle Palmieri and Jonathan Drouin. I think that line makes sense, but is it a true number one line? Like, no. It's kind of like a second line, right? That's going to be expected to score like a first line.
Yeah, I think it is going to be pretty difficult to parse all of this movement, the taking Barzal off, the additions of Druin and Shabanov that will probably go straight to the top 6 does make the projection, just the act of doing the projections, pretty obstreperous. So I don't know what to say exactly about Horvat's potential here, but let's talk about Druin then. 14 goals, 27 assists, 41 points. I have him for 13 goals, 30 assists, and 43 points for you, Blake. So, I mean, it's really hard to get excited about Jonathan
Yeah.
Drouin, even if this is the role and they're like, every single time coming out of the zone, give it to Jonathan Drouin, and then he's going to skate it in, and then he's going to pass it to Horvat, and then it's going to go in the net. Like, I just have my doubts about how often that's going to actually work.
Obstreperous, noisy, and difficult to control. All right, folks, we're learning here. This, you don't just learn about fantasy hockey here. You get elevated just to a different level of sophistication, the likes of which some of us have never seen. All right, especially me. Let's move on. Yeah, I mean, Jonathan Drouin, my God. Like in my mind before, like I have an idea of players sometimes. And then when I dig in on microstats and, other chance metrics and stuff like that, then it just totally tanks it. And Jonathan Drouin is one of those players. It's like, yeah, he's a good facilitator. He can make some passes. Like, no, Jonathan Drouin isn't doing a damn thing. He's a pylon out there. Seriously.
Yeah.
It's like there's a reason he had all those bad seasons there in Montreal, wasn't able to live up to the hype. And the fact that he has kind of played himself back into kind of a role where you're like, oh, John, like the thought that I just had, like, oh, Jonathan Drouin, yeah, I think he's going to do something. Like it's because he played with Nathan MacKinnon and he played top power play in Colorado, right? And it's like he paced for 71 points last year. He had a lot of injuries and a really tough year injury wise. So, hopefully he's coming back healthy so he can be the best version of himself here in New York. But I don't see it. I mean, before he moved to Colorado, this guy was a 40-point player, 40 to 50-point player max. And I think that's even that, like on this team, that feels really high. I've got him for 43 points. And I feel like that's just because I'm like, well, who else do they have?
Yeah.
Right. It's like he's going to get out there. I think he will play power play 1. I've got him for 13 power play points, 17 minutes, but this isn't the Colorado Avalanche, my guy. I mean, take the money, enjoy the money, spend it. That's great. But I don't see how he returns any kind of value that he was doing in Colorado.
Agreed. Kyle Palmieri here I have for 25 goals, 24 assists, rounding down to 48 points. You have him for 22 goals, 27 assists, 49 points. Palmieri seems to just keep kind of chugging along. It feels like he'll do what he was born to do, which is to play top line right wing minutes for the New York Islanders in relative
Right.
obscurity until the day he decides to hang him up. He is getting older. Like, I don't know how many more years he's got of continuing to do decently, but realistically, this is not a guy that you're going to be able to hang on to. It's really just kind of a streamer level guy, I think.
Yeah, he's a good streamer though. I remember multiple times last year when the Islanders, I'm looking for an Islanders streamer, and Kyle Palmieri's there, and you pick him up, and he does stuff. And I don't think that's going to change this year. I feel like New York, they'll probably be a little bit better, at least for fantasy, than they were last year, because of the reasons that I mentioned with Patrick Waugh and sort of, you know, the vibes and just kind of they got to put it out there, right? But yeah, I mean, this is not a guy we're ever going to be excited about. Just 2 short years ago, he had 20 points on the power play. I don't see that ever returning either. So it's just a streamer that you know, he can do stuff out there. This is terrible analysis. I mean, geez, for God's sake. Kyle, this doing the projections for the Islanders, like, and shout out to the Islanders. This is an NHL team. I like some of the players there, but this is hard, man. This was a slog because there are a lot of the same kind of players, aren't they? At least for
Yeah,
fantasy.
yeah, a lot of aging players that have impending age cliffs that they could topple off of any time. And yeah, not a lot of supporting cast either. You're really hoping for somebody to kind of elevate out of the muck and mire of the middle six forwards that
Yeah.
they have, and it's really hard to see exactly who that might be. Let's talk about Barzal now. I have him for 20 goals, 58 assists, 78 points. You have him for 24 goals, 56 assists, 81 points with the round up there. I think we're both pretty into Barzal, the player. It's really just like, can we get this man some teammates? Now they're
Yeah.
talking about taking him away from Horvat, giving him more defensive responsibility as a center. I think he's good enough to still score his points. They need him to score his points to continue to play well offensively, but it really is hard to see how he has a true breakout year. I think this is a guy who could score 90, even 100 points on some other teams. Love to see him, in the Mitch Marner role alongside Matthews. What kind of point seasons he could have put up in a role like that instead
Yeah.
of where he's been in the island. Um, Obviously, that's just wish casting at this point, but do like the player, want to be in on the talent. It is hard to see how he gets much beyond this projection, though.
Yeah. And I feel like this is generous. This is just because of what we're looking at under the hood with Matt Barzal, at least for me. So I'm like, there might not be a better player in the league, or maybe he's like in the top 3 of players that enter the zone, and those entries lead to scoring chances. He is elite at bringing the puck in the zone, keeping possession, like setting up offense, extending zone time. That's what Matt Barzal does, and he does it among the best in the entire league. Matt Barzal, he does that, but he's playing again. This is like Connor Bedard on Chicago. It's like, damn, just please, like, yeah, like you said, if he's away from Horvat, it's gonna be tough sledding here. Weird thing. He had his career high season in his rookie year. That's
Yeah.
weird. And then it was all downhill from here. He had 85 points in 81 games in the rookie year, won the Calder. I mean, barely touched that ever since. Last year, in 23-24, he did get 80 points. So we know it's there, right? But that included 25 power play points, right? So they're going to have to fix that power play. And I do think they have a player in the wings that could help with that situation.
All right. Well, before we get to that one, Anders Lee, knock
Oh,
this one out
damn.
quickly. 28 goals, 19 assists, 47 points for me. 29 goals, 21 assists, 50 points for you. Anders Lee feels like another version of Palmieri. He does his thing. He'll score this 25 to 30 goals every year and do not much else. But he had a good season last year. You can't really take that away from him in a season where not a lot of other things were going right for the Islanders. Anders Lee actually had a pretty solid season under the hood, did what he was asked to do, and then some. I just don't, again, really see the upside scenario. He's had the exposure to Barzal. It hasn't really changed much about Lee's numbers.
Mhm.
And I think he just kind of gets what's his. He's kind of like put the head down and grind for what he gets every single year kind of player. And I don't really see upside here yet again.
Yeah, not much to add to that. Just zero upside, and I think you'll start to notice when you watch these projection series, like the guys we want are the guys that have upside, right? Like, again, Timo Meier, I'll go back to there. You draft the floor. This guy you're drafting at absolute ceiling, and his ceiling was 54 points last year. So what is the floor? Like 30 points? Maybe, right? But, shout out to Anders Lee. Like, he's a good beefer. He got 120 hits. He's had more than that in the past. He got 54 points last year with only 9 power play points. And he was on power play 1 at times. He had a 53% power play share. So he's the captain of this team. I think, again, another good streamer. Like, it's him. It's Palmieri, right? Duclair, who we'll talk about. These are all guys you'll be streaming in throughout the year, when they have their hot streaks. But I don't see him reaching 29 goals again this year at age 35. I think, his days are probably, what did I project him for? My God, I'm saying I don't give him for 28. And then I'm looking at my projection. It's 29. All right. So, it's the numbers tell me that he can still do what he's doing, but I just don't trust it. Right. It's a ceiling projection.
All right, and the other member of this potential line that we've established here, Maxim Shabanov, coming over from the KHL. I have him for 17 goals, 24 assists, 41 points. You have him for 18 goals, 28 assists, 46 points. 5.3 points difference between us. Blake is higher on Shabanov. This is the biggest difference on the Islanders between us. I'm assuming that a chunk of this is the power play. I have him for 8.4 power play points.
For me, I've got him for 14.
There it is.
Yeah. So, but this guy, man, he's a dynamo, right? And again, Patrick Waugh. I found like a couple really good interviews with Patrick Waugh, like, which is really what I'm basing a lot of this stuff on. But he talked really highly about this guy, and not just offensively. He was saying he likes his game in the defensive zone. He says that the things that he's seen from him in the KHL, he's not afraid to get into the dirty areas. He's a pretty small guy, right? Like, he's not a big player. I think he's, what am I looking at? 5'8", 157. So that's going to be a problem, right? Like, he's definitely a small guy. That's going to be the question. Can he handle the rigors of the NHL, the physicality of the NHL? But like, look at all these players we're talking about, these slugs, you know what I mean? Just grinding it out. This guy's a breath of fresh air, right? Like, get in here. He's big time zone entries. He's big time, like IQ, hockey IQ, right? He does some really interesting stuff out there. Like, I watched a really big kind of highlight package of him. This guy does stuff like shoot for rebounds, like smart stuff like that. Like, he's not exactly a selfish player. He's a guy that's really aware out there. And I really like what I saw. He's a very good skater as well. And he's got a pretty damn good shot. So it all depends where he's deployed. But to me, this is the type of player that they need to lean on a little bit. And, we've talked about players that kind of just get a little bit of leash, like, go out and do what you do, and we'll make sure that you're kind of, lined up with people that can sort of take care of your weaknesses, right? But this is a guy they need to let fly a little bit, and I'm hoping they do, right? Because they got another good offensive guy in Maxim Siplikov as well, who they gave some time to last year in little pockets, but it didn't really work out. I'm a little bit more excited about Maxim Shabanov, though, to be honest.
All right, yeah. Talking about Shabanov here, will turn 25 in October, just after the season starts. Last couple of years over in the KHL were pretty impressive. 25 goals, 50 points in 64 games in 2023-24. Last year, 23 goals, 67 points in 65 games, going over a point per game there. 18 minutes, 47 seconds average time on ice. Was getting a lot of run. Really, the size is the biggest question, and how he'll hold up to some people taking some runs at him early in his NHL career. Over here on this side of the pond, I don't have a major take that either way, but for sure, if you're just looking for upside on this Islanders team where it's so difficult to find, Shabanov is the one guy who has that in spades. Let's talk about this third line, potential third line anyway. Jean-Gabriel Pageau, Anthony Duclair, Simon Holmstrom. I have Pageau for 14 goals, 27 assists, 42 points with the roundup. You have him for 15 goals, 24 assists, 39 points. Duclair I have for 13 goals, 18 assists, 31 points. You have him for 16 goals, 16 assists, 32 points. Simon Holmstrom, I have for 17 goals, 25 assists, 42 points. You have him for 17 goals, 23 assists, 40 points. Obviously, nothing too crazy here. I'll ask you a similar question. If any of these guys were to get more minutes or elevated up the lineup, would you have interest in any of them for fantasy purposes?
ugh, you know how painful this was to project? Like, it was like 4 players in a row where you're like, oh my God, like this is, you're just looking at like really middle of the road type players. But I mean, I've liked Duclair in the past for sure. But he signed his 3-year deal in on the island here, and it was a really rocky first year, right? And he still got 2 more years, like potentially with Patrick Waugh, who he could, be at odds with currently, right? So I feel like Duclair has the best chance to actually do something for fantasy. Holmstrom, I wanted to get excited about him, but like it was massively efficient.
Yeah.
Holmstrom, like it was crazy. And then you dig in on some of the metrics, like he's not doing a damn thing either besides being really efficient. So I know he's a young player and like kind of a guy you want to sort of get excited about, but I'm not sure that the talent is there, at least in terms of fantasy, for him to generate offense. And then JGP, he's your banger league option. Like this is he's great if you got faceoffs, he'll do that too. Like good hits, good blocks. Like he's just out there. I got him for 39 points. Again, they're all streamer level. I would even say like JGP's played in the top 6 before. I'm not interested. Holmstrom's played in the top 6 at times. I'm not interested. If Duclair went up there and was getting some reasonable minutes, I'd take a look, right? I feel like Duclair is the guy that I would be the most interested in.
Yep. I have pretty much nothing to add there. Obviously, we're not really excited about any of these options, but there's at least some potential in super deep leagues if somebody goes up a little bit higher. Let's talk about the D. Alexander Romanov, pretty elite bangers cats defenseman. I have Romanov going for 181 hits, 198
Nice.
blocks next year. So obviously my projection is 5 goals, 20 assists, 25 points. So he's not doing that, but the hits and blocks are definitely going to be there in spades with Romanov. Ryan Pulak I have for 5 goals, 17 assists, 22 points. Again, more so on the banger side of things, where I have him for 111 hits, 168 blocks. Neither player is going to really raise the roof for fantasy purposes, but Romanov at least has his utility in bangers cats.
Yeah, not too much to add. That's where you're picking these guys up. I had both of them in my Bangers Cats league at times. Romanov in particular, I had multiple times just because he's such an elite banger. But yeah, you're getting nothing on the offensive end.
All right, let's talk about the offensive defenseman then. Tony DeAngelo, top one here. Both of us are projecting him to get some top power play run. 10 goals, 33 assists, 43 points for me. 10 goals, 35 assists, 46 points with the roundup for you there. I think we both see this pretty similarly. In my mind, there's no reason to have Tony DeAngelo on your team if you're not going to give him the top power play. And so I'm pretty confident that that's what he's going to get. And I will draft him as such this year. He also got a pretty huge even strength role last year
Yep.
with this team under Patrick Waugh. So there's at least a chance that he runs a pretty big role all year long, at least until he's inevitably traded at the trade deadline.
Yeah, I've never drafted Tony DeAngelo, and I never will. All right, but I don't know. Maybe I can't even say that. Maybe I will. Like this is one of those like late round defensemen you can pick up who's going to do something for you. I mean, in 35 games, he paced for 45 points last year. That'll play, right? Especially at the back end of your draft, and that's all we've projected him here for. I just don't see how Schaefer takes power play 1 from Tony DeAngelo this season. It doesn't make any sense to me. That said, too, like DeAngelo is terrible defensively. That's why he's been minimized his whole career. That's why he's played sheltered offensive minutes because, yeah, guys are exposing him out there, right? He's all gas, no break. So lots of giveaways. He's getting dangled at the line. Teams are just kind of abusing him in the defensive zone, right? So Patrick Waugh has to be careful the way he deploys Tony DeAngelo. And it's interesting to me that he did give him the minutes he did, because when I dig in on some of the metrics, they don't look great, like defensive metrics, I mean. So, that kind of just says a lot to me about the state of the New York Islanders defense and why they would go out and draft a guy like Matthew Schaefer first overall, because we gotta figure some stuff out here. But it still boggles my mind. How do you trade Noah Dobson with this decor? How do you get like? Why would you get off of Noah Dobson? It just boggles my mind. Like where Tony DeAngelo is your de facto number 1. It's crazy.
Yeah, I guess it is just a money thing at the end, but Yeah, this is kind of what can happen to you when you give Ryan Pulock 6.15 million until 2030. You give Adam Pelech 5.75 until 2029. You give Scott Mayfield 3.5 until
Mayfield.
2030. Um, yeah, I mean, they're still paying Pierre Engvall 3 million a year until 2030. They got a lot of these contracts that Lou gave out that are just really all together kind of adding up to just a terrible cap situation.
Mhm.
And yeah, I I don't know if Dobson was the correct move, but it was definitely a situation that not a lot of GMs would have enjoyed getting themselves into this offseason. Matthew Schaefer, I did do a projection for him as if he will play 82 games, as did you, Blake. I had him for 9 goals, 27 assists, 36 points. You had him for 7 goals, 30 assists, 37 points. I think there's a chance that Matthew Schaefer could stick all year long and could cut it and be relatively useful for the Islanders. I'm less confident that they're just going to give him the keys to the franchise from day one. Just seems like a year where they probably don't do that, especially if it doesn't start out very well, which I don't anticipate that it will. So it just seems like a spot where what are you really getting out of pushing Matthew Schaefer into the NHL in a bad situation in year one? Let him play a full season elsewhere this year and let him kind of get back on track with his development.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's probably best for his development to not be up here, losing a bunch of games or kind of getting caved in out there, even if they're winning games, right? It's because Sorokin's catching bullets in his teeth or the team's being highly efficient. It's not going to be because they're tilting the ice. That's for damn sure. So yeah, that said, I mean, he's an exciting prospect. I love the guy himself, like all the stories with Matthew Schaefer and just sort
Mm-hmm.
of his personality. Like, I feel like just based on what I've seen, that is a guy that could step in and be like, yep, let's go. Right. And then we've just talked about the state of the New York defense, right? That they don't have, it's slim pickings. So there's certainly a pathway to minutes for Matthew Schaefer. It's just what's best for the player. Right. And I don't exactly know that because, I can't extrapolate that at this point. But I think if he does play, yeah, like a 37-point season, that would be a very successful season, especially on this team for Mathew Schaefer.
All right, Blake, what do you got? Top three
Uh,
targets?
all right, yeah, I got top three. I got to go Matt Barzal right off the bat. Come on, I'm going to take Matt Barzal. I've been getting him in like the 8th round, the 9th round. Matt Barzal in some of these mocks we're doing, and definitely in the best balls. I love it. I love Matt Barzal. I don't care how bad this team is. I still think it's an 80-point guy against all odds, right? He's that good. He's like Nikolai Ehlers on the Jets, but he actually gets minutes. You know what I mean? Like he gets like 20 minutes a night, and he always has. So imagine if the team got better. Yeah, Barzal's blasting off, like you said. I got Tony DeAngelo as my number 2, just for that power play deployment and the value that you can get at the end of your drafts. And then Maxim Shabanov. I want to be on that player. That's a late round pick. It could be your last pick. I've done it in a couple spots. It's very low risk. It's a low risk signing for the Islanders, and I think that it could absolutely pay off, especially if this guy is able to pot 50 points.
Right, for myself, Tony DeAngelo number 1, Mathew Barzal number 2, and Shabanov is number 3 for me. For all the reasons you've mentioned, don't think we need to expound further. Well, we have reached the halfway point of this episode. If you've made it this far, click the link, join the Discord community. You can do mocks for the Apples and Ginos Patron League, which, if you sign up for the Patreon, $2 per month here or above, you will have the opportunity to play in the Apples and Ginos Patron League this year. We have, I believe, we're up to 88 signups for the league already, so that's not too bad for early August at this point. So get yourself in there. We'll be organizing leagues into tiers and conducting things from there. Really excited about that product this year for the patrons. Also, there you can sign up in the description for the free newsletter. Blake's going to be spearheading that thing this year, and it's going to be great. Some extra info coming to your inbox every week. While you're here, like, rate, review, subscribe, comment, click something on your screen. Do it now, do it now, do it now. That would
Now,
help us out.
sweet. Yeah, I feel good about that. Nate, we're crushing. All right. We're Apples and Ginos is blasting off here this season. And we want you people here with us. All right. We're getting the biz. Get your biscuits to the Apples and Ginos Patron League. Do it now.
All right, let's get into the New York Rangers. Key departures, some pretty key departures here. Chris Kreider's gone, Keandre Miller's gone, Philip Hedl leaves midseason last year in the JT Miller trade, so obviously JT Miller is the key addition here. Also Vladislav Gavrikov, huge signing this offseason for the Rangers, ostensibly locking up a top pair partner for Adam Fox for the long term. And Gabe Perreault, the young rookie, came in at the end of last year, didn't really have a terrific showing, but it was pretty hard for anybody to get anything going on the Rangers last year. So hard to blame him for that, but looks primed to take over a regular spot in the lineup this year. Coaching status, Mike Sullivan will take over for Peter Laviolette. He takes over a squad that really just seemed like broken, like
Yeah.
it just was never going to work this year. I mean, realistically, if he can extract the most from the talent, the results will follow. The talent is not the question here. The question is there deeper things under the surface here? Did JT Miller bring some bad vibes when he came over? And there were already bad vibes going on, clearly. I don't know if there's player infighting or any crazy things going on behind the scenes here, but it definitely seems like there's been some bad vibes around the Rangers in recent years. If Mike Sullivan can at least just kind of get that into the background and let the players play, I think we're going to see better results this year.
I don't see how we can't. Like this team, even though they had such a bad year last year, they were still really good offensively. Like that offense didn't go away. We still have the amazing players. We got Panarin. We got all these guys. Like they were 13th in the league in expected goals for. They were 6th overall in actual goals for. So great finishing for this team. It's just the defense was horrendous, right? And nothing changed from year to year. So I really do buy into the narrative that the vibes were just really bad. Like Chris Drury was, like remember when he put Kreider and Trouba up for trade and like didn't even tell them, and it's like that's your captain, right? It's just there's a lot of really like big miscues to me. And then Peter Laviolette, dingus, right? Like he's just the way he treats his players. I'm not a fan of that. So I think you get one of the best best coaches in the league, Mike Sullivan. Like just stand behind the bench, my guy, and let these guys go to work. I think it's certainly going to be a bounce back. And one thing that Mike Sullivan does preach is structure, right? And I think that's what New York got away from last year. They were so worried about like offense is not a problem, but they weren't getting back in transition, right? And they're getting a lot of odd man rushes against, and leaving Shesty out to dry there. So this is going to be a massive dub for them to pick up Mike Sullivan. I wish Vancouver was a place like New York. You know what I mean? Like a real hot spot. It's like, oh, you got a coaching a vacancy, like bam, you get the best coach that's available right now. It's like, geez, come on. We got Adam Foote over here. Like, what the hell? He's not even a coach, for God's sake. Like, I don't know. Anyways, I'm excited about Mike Sullivan there in New York.
All right, let's talk about this power play. It feels really locked in to me.
Yeah.
Panarin, JT Miller, Mika Zibanejad, Vincent Trocheck, Adam Fox. I can't see another. I won't hear an argument for anything else at this point. I know some people are going to argue for Lafreniere, but I don't think those people have looked at what Alexis Lafreniere did last year or did not do last year more accurately.
Ooh.
Weird season on the power play last year. 28th in power play percentage after ranking third in the league in 2023-24. This has historically been, basically since Panarin arrived, it's been an elite power play and then just fell off the face of the earth last year and never got going. The talent on this power play, the way that it theoretically aligns, like everything should work out here in my mind. I don't see a reason why they can't have a major bounce back this year, but to some extent, the players are liable for the fact that it was 28th last year, and only JT Miller is really new to the squad, and he was there for a good chunk of last year already.
I think the power play did get better when he got there. Like that just says how bad they actually were.
Yeah.
It's insane and it's inexplicable, really. Like it just seems like there was something different at play. It's not just like, well, the X's and O's aren't matching up. It's like, no, I think there was again bad vibes. Like, players were just I think they didn't feel comfortable to make mistakes out there, and I think that's kind of something like Peter Laviolette his shtick can wear thin, and I think that's sort of what happened. But it will be interesting to see what happens to this power play. I like you said, I mean, 28th overall in power play percentage, and they were third the year before. So I feel like the 28th overall is the outlier. Right. Third is kind of where they should be. I think this is going to be a top 10 power play. It will be interesting to see what they do like net front, because Trocheck usually plays the bumper, right? And we had Chris Kreider as a net front. Well, now Chris Kreider's gone. So does Trocheck play the net front and then Miller plays the bumper? Because Miller's also likes to roam around, right? And so does Panarin, and so does Adam Fox, right? So it's going to be an interesting power play, but I would almost guarantee that it's going to be Trocheck over Lafreniere.
Right, let's dig in on projections. Vincent Trocheck is first up. Friend of the show, Vinny Tro.
Vinny
I have
Tro.
for 23 goals, 38 assists, 61 points. You have him for 23 goals, 39 assists, 63 points with the roundup. So Vincent Trocheck is always going to be a Bangers Cats beauty. I have him for 206 shots, 191 hits, 75 blocks. Fills the categories very nicely. As long as he maintains this power play role and the center role alongside Artemi Panarin, I think you can take Vincent Trocheck to the bank for around 60 points and some terrific peripherals.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, another really solid floor player that you don't have to worry about. He's getting buku minutes, and that's not going to change whether he gets power play one or not. Like, he's still going to get 19, 20 minutes, which is absolutely valuable. Big time periffs, love that. And yeah, I think I'd like to see him stick on power play one, obviously, right? I've got him for 17 power play points. What did you get him for?
I had him for 15 power play points.
Yeah, he's not the engine there on the power play. This is a guy that's, I think he could move net front and sort of be more of like a tip in guy, or go behind the net, dig the puck out, get it to the other guys. But yeah, Trocheck I think is going to have a nice bounce back. I think this power play in New York is really, it was so horrible last year. I think for fantasy, we're going to see a lot of guys with 5 more points on top, or maybe even more, because of how bad that power play was, and Trocheck's one of them.
Artemi Panarin next up, I have for 38 goals, 59 assists, 97 points. You have him for 39 goals, 61 assists, 100 points with the roundup there. This is the biggest difference in our projections. 2.7 points difference on Panarin is the biggest. So we're really tight across the board on the Rangers, which feels pretty good. Panarin, I think, is actually going to be a guy that I'm going to have some of this year. He's typically gone higher than I like to draft him. Had that big year and he was going in the first round. Now it seems like he's fallen back towards the back end of the second in a lot of spots, and I actually have him more middle to top end of the second in most of my stuff. So I'm actually pretty interested in Panarin this year. You look at any kind of stat you want to look at with Panarin, it's all 99th percentile, off the charts, all the way to the right. So I love me some Panarin. I think he's just about as bankable a superstar as you can find in the second round this year.
Yeah, it's true. He's a superstar. I don't know if we all think of Panarin as a superstar, at least in fantasy. Obviously, if you are a fan of the New York Rangers, you know this man's a superstar. But like, for fantasy, he's a superstar, and he's getting drafted sometimes in the third round. That makes no sense, right? He had whatever it was last year, 88 points. Well, he also had a horrible year on the power play. He had 26 power play points after 44 the year before. And that was the outlier. He's not getting 44 points again on the power play, but he could get 36 points on the power play instead of 26. You throw another 10 points on top. It is that simple, folks. Like, this guy he's legit. Like you said, you take him to the bank. He's one of the most creative players in the league. He has chemistry with Vincent Trocheck, with Alexis Lafreniere at even strength, and he's got the keys to the power play. He does whatever he wants, and he has some really great pieces in JT Miller and Adam Fox to do that with him.
Okay, let's talk about Alexis Lafreniere. 19 goals, 28 assists, 47 points for me. 21 goals, 29 assists, 50 points for you, Blake. I think there could be a little bit of bounce back from last year's low for Lafreniere here, but I'm not that excited. It really seems like we're not going to get major volume from shots. Yeah, he'll have a good amount of hits. 117 hits is my projection for him. But it doesn't seem like he's ever going to establish himself at the elite level that many thought he would when he was drafted first overall.
Yeah, to me, it's kind of just the situation he's in New York as well, right? Like, he's a great player that probably should be on power play one somewhere, but because of the talent level they have here, the offensive talent, he's not going to get it, right? And he might get it, like we said, but not full time, right? He's going to be a fringe power play one guy, if that. So I think that's really one of the biggest things. He's not a focal point of this team. He's a supplementary piece, and I think when he was drafted as like a focal point. Like, this guy's going to be a superstar. He's going to be our next great thing, right? Well, it just hasn't really worked out that way. And, the Rangers have been fine with Lafreniere kind of at the role he has. But I do believe in the player. I think 2 years ago when we saw Lafreniere kind of pop off for 57 points and we were all getting pretty excited about him, that's still in there. I think he was definitely a casualty of just these bad vibes that the Rangers had last year. I expect him back up. I've projected him for 50 here. But I think he has more, right? He could have more on the power play. This guy's career high power play points, 6. Okay, if he spends any time on power play 1, like, that should be better, right? And I think there's a good chance he does spend some time on power play 1, not more than Vincent Trocheck, but I'm sure he'll spend some time up there. If there's injuries, it's going to be Lafreniere. He's going up there as well. So yeah, 50 points. I feel good about that. But this is a player who I do think has a little bit of ceiling. I love everything underlying all the microstats. Like, he shows out in a lot of the things that I'm interested in. It's just the situation he's in New York, I think.
All right, JT Miller. I'm going to potentially center the other line here. 29 goals, 53 assists, 82 points for me. 31 goals, 52 assists, 83 points for you, Blake. I'm pretty into JT Miller this year. I see a pretty solid power play role for him. I'm time for 26 power play points, close to 200 shots, maybe a little bit under, but also around 200 hits, which is really nice. That'll play. So I'm pretty into JT Miller. I think that he's probably going to get forgotten a little bit this year. Everybody's going to be like, oh, yeah, that 1 year in Vancouver was just this huge outlier. He's not really that good. JT Miller's still quite good, and I do think he can have a point per game season.
Yeah, I'm very into Miller this year as well. Like, it's obviously, you could probably tell a trend here with Nate and I. It's like, we want value, right? And Miller, when he was valued as like a 100-point player, I wasn't really here for that, right? Because it was based off of massive efficiency. But now he's being valued as a point per game player. Yeah. And we're getting JT Miller in the 4th round. And sometimes, yeah, like that'll play. That'll damn well play because this is a guy that can get into the 90s. And I would argue that the players he has here in New York are better offensively than what he had in Vancouver. They're better. Like, certainly on the power play, like, the power play is no question. They're much better than what they had in Vancouver. And then, I like Mika Zibanejad too, who we'll talk about in a second. But for a bounce back, that fits perfectly to me. JT Miller and Mika Zibanejad. I think that's a really good piece. And then, whoever they throw on the other side, whether it's Will Cooley, whether it's someone else, like, I feel like that second line is going to be really strong.
All right, Will Cooley is the next one up. I have for 20 goals, 25 assists, 45 points. You have him for 22 goals, 22 assists, and 44 points. I'm pretty into Will Cooley this year, actually, partially because I'm struggling to figure out who else they would elevate into this top 6. I guess maybe Gabe Perreault, if he shows himself to be capable of handling some of those extra minutes, and they think that he's the right kind of player to play alongside somebody like Miller and Zibanejad, or maybe some other line that they decide to mix and match. I just think that Will Cooley brings something different to the table, right? For 174 shots, 322 hits is the big one with Will Cooley, along with this 20-plus goal-scoring ability. And so if he can stake a claim and hold on to a top 6 role in New York this year, he's going to be pretty valuable for fantasy.
Yeah, this guy's an absolute beefcake. I got him for 286 hits. I feel like sometimes when a player like this is elevated up the lineup, they sort of tone it down a little bit. That's maybe what I'm thinking of with Will Cooley there. But I mean, he has 300 hits in the bag, no question. This guy's an absolute unit. But yeah, I've got him for over a minute, like a minute and a bit extra time on ice as to what he had last year. Like, this is what we call plum deployment. I mean, JT Miller's a stud. I've watched the man for years. He elevates his line mates, no question. And, we'll talk about, again, Mika Zibanejad in a second here. That guy's no slouch, right? So Will Cooley is landing in a plum spot. All he needs to do is win those board battles, big time hits, create space for his teammates. And I think that he's going to help JT Miller and Zibanejad up their point totals as well.
All right, Mika Zibanejad, I have his right wing on this line. I think Miller and Zibanejad could trade off face-off duties wherever they feel like, but potentially playing together here on this line. I have Zibanejad for 25 goals, 46 assists, 71 points. You have him for 28 goals, 46 assists, 74 points. It's just a spot where I'm struggling to be excited about Zibanejad. The high-end goal scoring has really gone away.
Yep.
He still shoots a decent amount, 200 shots. Like, that's okay. The other periffs aren't really there. So you're really relying on power play. You're really relying on him establishing some chemistry at even strength. And I do think there is a bit of a risk just looking at the massive drop-off on this team after the top six here. I do think there is a real risk that they put Zibanejad on a quote unquote third line as the center, and
Mm-hmm.
they let Trocheck, Miller, and Zibanejad each center their own lines, and as they try to spread out some scoring. That would be absolute worst case for Zibanejad. I don't think, at least at this stage in his career, that he's capable of really elevating some subpar line mates and returning big even strength numbers. So that would be worst case scenario for Zibanejad, and I think it's a worst case for him that doesn't really exist for a lot of the other players we've talked about.
Yeah, it's a little bit risky, that's for sure. I don't know that that'll happen, but it does make sense because the bottom six is not even close to what they used to have. They used to have a pretty elite third line in Capo Caco, Filipino, and Will Cooley. Well, that is gone. So hopefully their bottom six can provide some good minutes out there and at least win their shifts because we need Mika Zibanejad with JT Miller, certainly for fantasy. But again, this guy was another casualty of that horrible power play. In 2023-24, he had 31 power play points, which is great, right? And that really kind of buoyed him to a 70-point season. Last year, only 19. So he was a big loser when it came to power play points last year. So let's say he gets another 6 on top of that. Let's say he gets another 8. Now we're looking at a 70-point season last year. And I think I just feel like there's a little bit more meat on the bone with Mika Zibanejad as well because of the high danger passes that JT Miller gives, right? Chris Kreider was really good at that with Mika Zibanejad helping him out. Well, Chris Kreider's gone. Miller is a million times better, and he's a better passer as well. So I think Zibanejad's got to get that 1T going again. I think we're going to see more of those type of goals. And a nice little bounce back for Zibanejad. And a thing I really like about Zibanejad, where he's being drafted. He's going in the 10th round. Like you and I both have him projected for 70 points. You can get 70 points in the 10th round. Like what I think last year, 62 points, that's floor. I don't see him getting less than 62 points. So you're getting 62 points in like the 9th or 10th round. That's automatic to me. I've had to pick Zibanejad, even though I don't want to, because I'm like, why is he here? This doesn't make any sense, right? 70-point player, 10th round, book it. What are we doing?
Yeah, I mean, once you get there, I think you have the green light. I still think there's risk there, but obviously the risk is pretty mitigated by having him that far down. Gabriel Perreault, I did a quick projection for 11 goals, 26 assists, 38 points with the round up. Just a player to, be aware of. Highly touted rookie, probably going to establish himself at the NHL level this year. Chance that he moves up the lineup, injury or otherwise, and gets a chance to play with the big boys, at which point he would at least be a good streamer and potentially a guy who could develop into a long-term hold in a best-case scenario. Vladislav Gavrikov joins the team here. Not really a guy that you think about for fantasy purposes. I have him for 6 goals, 22 assists, 28 points. And you have him for 6 goals, 23 assists, 29 points. 117 shots, only 52 hits. I have him for 133 blocks, which I guess is the most interesting part of his peripheral profile. But Gavrikov really exists to make Adam Fox better, and Fox is somebody who we're obviously interested in for fantasy. I have Fox for 13 goals, 58 assists, 71 points. You have him for 12 goals, 61 assists, 73 points. Talk to me about Fox and where you'd be willing to draft him this year.
I've got a lot of Fox already in the mocks that we're doing and in the best balls because New York does have a good schedule. So I've found myself getting Adam Fox in the 4th round. This is a guy that used to be a 2nd round defenseman, and I'm getting him in the 4th. Like this guy's pretty much automatic for 70 points a year. Yeah, again, he was a casualty of that horrible power play, right? Knocked 12 power play points right off the top, and that's what happened to Adam Fox last year. Everything else was fine. So I'm a really Adam Fox to me is, and I'm not going to spoil this, but he's my guy. That's a player I'm targeting for sure this year because of the absolute value. Like he seems to me to be coming after the top tier of all those guys, and he's not even the top guy in the 2nd tier. he's still out there. So this is a guy's going to bounce back big time. We're probably looking at 30 power play points. And when I look at his microstat profile, he shows out just like all the best guys, like just like Quinn Hughes, just like even Jackson Lacombe. I'll throw him in there, but like guys that show out big time in microstats. Adam Fox is doing all that stuff. It's just the team was horrible last year, right? There's no question. And then, like you said, like you bring in a guy like Gavrikov. The Rangers expected goals against per 60 last year. They were six worst, not dead last, but they were sixth worst. So, yeah, you think they had an idea what they wanted to do in the offseason? Bring a guy like Gavrikov in here. And I think he's going to play with Adam Fox, and that's just going to equal more offense for Fox. I think there's actually a little bit of ceiling here for Adam Fox. I don't know if he can get to 80, but, I mean, I think having Gavrikov here gives him that opportunity.
Yeah, I like Fox as well. Right now, he currently will rank as my 10th defenseman in APL settings. He's not a big-time shooter, 157 shots, not a big-time hitter, 43 hits, 125 blocks for me is pretty solid, but not like truly special. I think Adam Fox is pretty good as a player in that range. For me, he kind of fits into this Sider, Uyghur, Sanderson, Morrissey. Maybe extend that to a guy like Seth Jones if you're high on Seth Jones the way I am. But yeah, somewhere in that kind of tier of players. And yeah, to your point, he's going a little bit later. When he was going in the second round, that was mostly just people not really understanding that there are points formats and taking him much higher than he should have been going. So to me, he's just now going in a much more appropriate range. But as you mentioned, with the off nights, some other factors at play here, the fact that last year was pretty poor, he's finally getting pushed down into a range where I'm actually probably going to have some Adam Fox this year.
Oh, yeah.
Lastly, Will Borgen, basically the banger special here. I have him for 4 goals, 15 assists, 19 points. You have him for 4 goals, 16 assists, 20 points. But what you're really after is the 147 hits and the 114 blocks. Nothing too crazy, but worth noting the name in case you need to stream bangs from the Rangers at any point this year. We're on to the targets, Blake. Who you got?
Buddy, we're flying. Oh my God. Nate and I both have to go to bed. That's why this is so streamlined. We're doing a good job, buddy. Congratulations to you.
Thanks for slowing it down.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you can't stop it. I'm sorry about that, Nate. My top 3 targets. Let me tell you a little story about JT Miller. He's my number 1. Whereas I said Adam Fox is my number 1. But yeah, JT Miller, Adam Fox, both guys I'm very interested in because of the value that you can get potentially both in the 4th round. Love that. And then Artemi Panarin, again, same thing, value. Late 2nd round, early 3rd round, Panarin, sign me up.
Yeah, I've got Miller, then Panarin, and then Cooley as the third, as a guy who at least has some untapped potential, potentially. Yeah, that's a guy that
It's
I'm
late over there in
interested
Ontario.
It's a little bit late here, but it's not too late to talk about Ottawa. Ottawa Senators key departures. Josh Norris gets traded to Buffalo in season. Adam Gaudette, who scored 19 goals for them last year, is gone, as well as backup Anton Forsberg. Key additions. Dylan Cousins comes over in the Josh Norris trade. They add Fabian Zetterlund from San Jose and resign him. And Jordan Spence comes over. Nice little trade from the Los Angeles Kings this offseason. It's hard to say that the Senators are worse after these additions, Blake.
Yeah, I mean they're better for sure, and we'll get into it. But I think it's a nice swing on Dylan Cousins, right? This is a guy that had a lot of hype surrounding him, signed a big contract, and then sort of fell off. Zetterlund as well, like a kind of a talented guy that needs some ice time there, but he had little spurts of value. And then Jordan Spence, really nice, again, low risk, high reward guy. So I feel good about the additions here. I think this is a better team.
Let's talk about Travis Green returning as a head coach after getting the Sens across the finish line into the playoffs. Really did get the Sens to buy in and abandon the freewheeling offense that had been employed by DJ Smith for the previous seasons. That in itself was a bit of a feat. Got the Sens there in the end. I'm not like super sold on Travis Green as, elevating anyone. I guess he's fine, but I definitely don't view him as an upper echelon NHL coach.
No, definitely not. I mean, when I watched him here in Vancouver, like he had some good talent, but he didn't really do what he's doing in Ottawa, which is it seems very simple. Like he's really simplified what they do on offense, not only defense, which works, but on offense too. Like it's a lot of like dump the puck in, forecheck, like just kind of whipping shots on net, recover the puck, try again. Like I don't know. It's not inspiring stuff, especially when you got really nice offensive players like Tim Stützle, Drake Batherson. There's some really good players here that can do something with a little bit of offensive leash, and it doesn't appear that Travis Green is really interested in doing that at this point.
Power play looks to me like Brady Tkachuk, Tim Stützle, Drake Batherson, and Jake Sanderson are all locks. I would honestly say Dylan Cousins is pretty close to a lock for me. I guess Claude Giroux or David Perron could moonlight here or there, but I think Cousins profiles as that guy. He was there throughout his time on the Senators after being acquired from Buffalo. Do you see it any differently here, Blake?
I don't think so. I mean, I'd love it if they put Shane Pinto up there, but when I dug in on him, it's just all defense, right? And we'll talk about Pinto later, but I can't in good conscience be like, no, put Pinto up there. That makes sense. It's like, no, he's got a role there. I think Cousins has pretty much got it locked down.
Yeah, Pinto basically did not play on the power play last year,
No,
even the second unit.
not what I like to see, but that's fine. The Pinto Bean.
All right, let's dig in on some projections here. Tim Stützle, I have for 24 goals, 52 assists, 76 points. You have for 27 goals, 53 assists, 80 points. There, so a little bit of difference for us there, but nothing too crazy. I think Stützle is an effective player, a true top line center in the league, but he's not a big time shooter. I have him for 169 shots, 118 hits, which is nice, but I think he just always ends up a little bit lower in my rankings than where people are taking him, and I don't really think this year is going to be any different.
It's called bias, Nate. All right. You got a Timmy Stutz bias. I don't know what's going on. What did Timmy Stutz do to you? Okay. This man is a stud. He's a unit. He's a horse. He plays a ton of minutes. Yeah, there's some efficiency stuff there. He's a great power play performer. Like those are all things that can regress. So I can see how we get to these projections. And I also think we just talked about Travis Green. Like I don't think Stutz is a great player in Travis Green's system, right? So I think that's holding him down a little bit, but I absolutely love the player. Where would you think Stutz is going to be value for you? Like, where are you like, I pretty much have to take Timmy Stutz?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at it now. If I just go by base projections, he's still lower than Timo Meyer, and I'm getting Timo Meyer in the 6th round a fair bit here. It really is the shot volume to a large extent. It's just not there. He doesn't block as much as a fair number of other forwards at this point, and so I just don't know. Like, I have Dylan Guenther higher. I have Alex Tuck higher. I have Nick Suzuki higher. I have Nazem Kadri higher. Like, I don't really see how I'm going to get there, at least in, APL settings, which I feel like are not that far off of most standard points leagues. I just don't know outside of even like a Bangers Cats, like the hits are nice, but the shots are not. Like the shots are below average for a high end player like this. He doesn't score at a high rate. Like the 30 plus goals is probably an outlier. I just don't see how there's a high end season here outside of another really high efficiency season like he had the one time.
Dear God. Oh, this is terrible. That's very depressing, Nate. I'll tell you, can you give me, is he a good player in real life? Can you give me that?
Terrific player in real life, Tim
That's what I needed
Stützle.
to hear. That makes me feel good.
Brady Tkachuk next up, 39 goals, 31 assists, but rounding down to 69 points here, which is pretty nice. 35 goals, 37 assists for you, Blake, which is 72 points. Brady Tkachuk, obviously the Bangers Cats extraordinaire with 346 shots, 269 hits for me here, and also 130 PIMs if you count those in your league. Love to see all of that, obviously, from Brady Tkachuk, but again, under Travis Green, I don't think we're getting point per game Brady Tkachuk, which I think a lot of people are hoping for or still hoping for. I just don't think that's realistic for Brady Tkachuk this year.
Yeah. we need a bit more creativity. Like, it's so dumbed down. And obviously Kachuk knows what to do in that type of scenario, right? Like, get in, get 6 high danger chances in like one possession where he's just like bang, 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 bang. Like, he just does that. He just gets to the net and crashes it. But he's also a pretty talented player. This is a guy that can enter the zone well, sets up scoring chances. He's a smart player. It's just, I think that the way they play here in Ottawa is kind of, keeping his thumb down on Brady Tkachuk. And until that changes, I don't see a massive season like we want. But I do think that point per game is in the wheelhouse for Brady Tkachuk. But yeah, he's going to have to bury his chances for one. I mean, this guy is the ultimate chucker. Like, I'm looking at his shooting percentage, like 10.4, 10.1, 10.4, 9.8 last season, 7.7 in 2020 and 2021. Jeez, buddy, put the biscuit in the basket. The puck goes in the net, my man. So I don't know. I do, again, another narrative though. Matt Tkachuk's won 2 Stanley Cups in a row. You think Brady Tkachuk is motivated this season? Like, I think he's going to get shot out of a cannon. I think he's going to have a very good first quarter of the year. That's for damn sure.
Hopefully, he can imbue the rest of the team with some of that spirit as
You were
well,
waiting for that one.
including Claude Giroux. 15 goals, 32 assists, 47 points for me, 16 goals, 31 assists, rounding up to 48 points for you. I'm pretty mid on Claude Giroux. I think he's a streamer level player at this point. Don't think he's going to be on the top power play this year, as we've mentioned. And so I think he really is in that stage of his career where he's just a streamer.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, if he gets power play 1 with any consistency, then we're picking him up. But until then, streamer. And he's still doing stuff for fantasy, right? Even at the ripe old age of 37. So there you go. Shout out to you, Claude Giroux.
Dylan Cousins next up. This is the player with our biggest difference in projections, 5.4 points to be exact. I have Dylan Cousins for 18 goals, 38 assists, 56 points. You have him for 21 goals, 30 assists, and 51 points. So I am the high guy on Dylan Cousins here. I'm pretty into what could be here with Cousins. I have him for 22 power play points, 185 shots, 191 hits. What are you seeing here, Blake? Let's start with the power play points, and then I've got him for 17 minutes average time on ice.
Yeah, I've got 19 power play points. So giving him the power play 1 treatment. I don't think I gave him like 2 minutes and 45 seconds. So just in case they want to do some shenanigans there, you got Pinto in the wings. All right, you get his ass. Right? All right, but anyways, yeah, I got that. Sorry, what was the other stuff you're talking about?
Just the overall time on ice.
16, just over 16 and a half.
Okay.
So a little bit less there.
So yeah, a little bit more time on ice, probably a little bit more efficiency on the power play. I think Dylan Cousins has at least a chance to reinvent himself a little bit here. I don't know that he's gonna, score 70 points again or something like along those lines, but this is not a bad spot to be. Projects to play alongside Drake Batherson, who's pretty solid talent in his own right, and they have some players down the lineup who could come up and play on this second line here. I think that it should be a pretty solid spot for a guy like Dylan Cousins to ply his trade, and at least you're getting the shots, at least you're getting the hits, and whatever we get with the goal scoring on top of that, I think is just gravy. David Perron also probably going to be on the second line, still got some juice left at, what is he, 38, 39 at this point?
37, take it easy.
Okay, all right. Sorry, David Perron. He's got 17 goals, 22 assists, 39 points this year, according to me. 16 goals, 18 assists, 34 points, according to you, Blake. I think David Perron has, he'll hit a good chunk, 122 hits here. Talk about the style that they're going to play here. They are going to dump that puck in. They are going to go hit some people. Dave Perron is absolutely all about that life. Realistically, I think the only way you're really streaming David Perron outside of maybe a Bangers Cats is if he gets on the power play 1 at some point, where I do think he's shown himself to be a pretty good power play performer in years past. I don't know if he's still necessarily got that in the bag at his advanced age, but David Perron still has a chance to do something given the right opportunity this year.
Yeah, I don't have too much to add. I think he's still a great power play performer, but I don't see a spot for him on power play 1, so that's going to kind of take that away. And I see him more as a third liner. The way I sort of projected it, I had Fabian Zetterlund on the second line there, and I bumped somebody up to the top line. I don't remember who it was, Claude Giroux, I think. So, I see Perron as more of a third line guy at even strength, and then power play 2, which equals stinky point production.
All right, Drake Batherson, the other member of the top 6 that we haven't talked about yet. I have for 26 goals, 43 assists. You know what that means? 69 points. Pretty nice. You have him for 28 goals, 42 assists, 70 points. Missed opportunity there on your
Sorry
part.
about that.
I have him for 27 power play points, 189 shots, 143 hits. I like Batherson. I think everyone is pretty much caught up on Batherson at this point. Again, I don't think in this current system that there's really a lot of upside to get to that, point per game level, that kind of next step. He's already got a pretty healthy power play total here in this projection, so it's hard to see the next step. I guess really the opportunity for Batherson would be if Cousins finds a way to get back to his 70-point ways, and Batherson comes along on that ride a little bit. So I don't really see a ceiling scenario for Batherson, but definitely a really solid point performer and fantasy performer.
Yeah, I do think that he's going to break 70 here at one point. I remember I've been projecting him for a few years now, and it's like he's either really good and efficient at even strength or really good and efficient on the power play, but never together. You know what I mean? It's like, put it together, my man, because he had an amazing year on the power play last year. But again, 68 points, whereas the year before he only had 22 power play points, but he still had 66 points, right? So it's like, I feel like there is a little bit of ceiling here, but it's going to be efficiency. And like you said, it's probably going to be his chemistry with Dylan Cousins, because I think they're going to be pretty much connected here this year.
All right, moving on to the third line. Shane Pinto, I have for 20 goals, 22 assists, 42 points. You have him for 23 goals, 19 assists, 42 points as well. Big problem with Shane Pinto, as we alluded to, he does not play on the power play. They've basically tried everybody and anybody over him on the second power play unit. I think a big chunk of that is the fact that he is one of their top penalty killers, and so they're choosing to use him more on that side of the puck. That being said, Shane Pinto is quite efficient at even strength, generates stuff on his own, and puts the biscuit in the basket when called upon. Still like Shane Pinto, but realistically, unless he's getting power play time, nothing more than a streamer.
Again, another nickname I'm not going to be able to say very much this year. The Pinto Bean. Oh, yeah, buddy. No, Pinto, he had some beans for dinner. I'm sorry. He's obviously earmarked as a third line defensive center, and he's really good at it. So why would they change it? I don't know. The only reason I'm ever interested in Shane Pinto this upcoming year is if there's injuries and he moves up the lineup.
All right, the two prospective wingers there on the third line, Ridley Greig and Fabian Zetterlund. I have Greig for 13 goals, 21 assists, 35 points with the roundup. You have Greig for 14 goals, 20 assists, 34 points. I have Zetterlund for 17 goals, 13 assists, 30 points. You have him for 18 goals, 16 assists, 34 points. Both these guys will lay the wood. I have Greig at 145 hits, Zetterlund at 162. Also have Zetterlund for 72 blocks, which is pretty solid stuff as well. I think both these guys have their uses in a Banger's Cats, but I'm not too sure about their streamability anywhere else.
Well, I certainly hope they do lay the wood this season, all right? Because I hope that for everybody. I don't know what that means. Are you talking about hits, Nate? Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely.
Right out, man. Exactly. We're talking fantasy hockey here, folks. What the hell are you doing? Fabian Zetterlund. Yeah, this is a guy that definitely had more value with San Jose. He's more of a supplementary piece here in Ottawa. So yeah, that's unfortunate because I think he's got a lot to offer. But they got guys that can do what he does, probably a little better than what he does. So yeah, shout out to Fabian Zetterlund. And Ridley Greig. Every time I think of him, I think of that time he came down and did that slap shot into the empty net. What a maroon, what a freaking dingus. You know what I mean? Don't do that. But I think I like that third line. If Zetterlund is down there in the third line, that's a great third line, very agitating third line, and a really effective defensive one. So good in real life, not so great for fantasy outside of Bangers Cats leagues.
All right, let's talk about defense here. Jake Sanderson really came into his own last year. I have him for this year up at 12 goals, 44 assists, rounding up to 57 points. You have him for 11 goals, 44 assists, 55 points. Pretty into Jake Sanderson this year. Took another step last year, almost 200 shots. I am pretty into what Jake Sanderson might offer us.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not sure I'm fully there, like at this level that he's being drafted and sort of being projected as. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, he had a big year last year, and I'm happy for it. And he's a really big part of this team. But I don't know. Like, I've seen people taking him like just after Hedman. You know what I mean? Or things. It's like I don't know if I can get there yet. Like, he had a massive year on the power play, 30 power play points. I feel like that's going to come down a touch. And this isn't a guy that really was very offensive as he was coming up. You know what I mean? That wasn't what he was known for. He's an amazing defensive defenseman, connecting the plays like I've talked about before. But now he's showing some offensive prowess with the Sens. I feel like 58 points he got last year is probably ceiling. I don't see how he beats that. I mean, that said, this guy's great at blocks, so he's going to do that for you. He doesn't really hit, but I don't know. Where is Jake Sanderson in your defensive tier? Like, where are you kind of valuing him?
Yeah, I think he fits into the Adam Fox, Josh Morrissey tier that I mentioned earlier. I have Sanderson just below Fox in points per game.
Hmm.
I mean he shoots a lot more, which is a big thing. He blocks a lot more, which is another big thing in our settings here. So if those don't mean as much to you in your league, then definitely he would be diminished there. I think it's possible that Sanderson has more left in the tank here, especially at even strength. It really feels like Ottawa has rounded out the top 9 here, and so they could just get more offense from all facets, and Sanderson just being on the ice as much as he is could benefit from that as well. I think there's some pretty decent scenarios for Sanderson this year, and he's just about as locked in as anybody across the league into his role. And once you get into the back end of these defensemen, these top tier defensemen, you might call them, then you start to get questions. You start to get into the Jackson Lacombes, the Dougie Hamiltons, the Thomas Harleys, the guys who have a little bit more question about their power play role. And that's when people start to feel the urgency of grabbing a guy like James Sanderson. For myself, I'm still pretty into it because I think we might not have even seen the best of Sanderson yet.
Oh my.
Thomas Chabot next up, I have for 9 goals, 35 assists, 44 points. You have him for 10 goals, 34 assists, 44 points as well. Thomas Chabot, now that Sanderson is on the case, is being just kind of relegated to a pretty strong even strength role, but nothing too much in terms of power play. That being said, still projecting him here for 44 points, 186 shots, 152 blocks. That'll play.
Yeah, he's a great defenseman. Just what you said. He's kind of been relegated to that second option here because Sanderson's really been taking off, and I do think Sanderson's important to this team is so much higher than really any other defenseman they have. That said, Thomas Chabot, he's amazing at generating chances, shots. He's great at just in zone offense, rush offense. He does it all. He's kind of a jack of all trades. So I feel like this is a nice, like a fourth kind of defenseman you can pick up, and also an insurance policy for Sanderson if he does get injured, because Chabot has been on power play one before, 20 power play points in 2022-23. He does that. He's a great skater. I just think, yeah, he's behind Sanderson in the pecking order now, and that's really going to affect him for fantasy.
Yeah, it's worth noting, when we talk about some of these defensemen, who are you going to take? We talked about Jake Wallman as a guy with a really solid upside if there was ever to be an injury to Evan Bouchard. I think Chabot fits into maybe a lesser version of that prototype of player. Definitely a player that you could do worse as your fourth defenseman, though. Jordan Spence, I did a quick projection, getting him for 5 goals, 26 assists, 31 points. I just wanted to mention Spence as a guy that actually will probably help the overall team a lot this year. I feel like they're kind of missing this puck moving guy on a pair back here, whether he plays on the second pair with Chabot or plays down the lineup even further. I just think that Spence will add something at even strength that should be a net positive for the team. And overall, I think that is kind of the story that I'm getting from Ottawa here. Well, we don't think that Green will allow these offensive players to really reach their full potential for fantasy. I do think they've made some moves around the margins here that will actually increase the overall offense of this team. Maybe not by a lot, but it could be a little bit of a step up, and that could be valuable for fantasy purposes. All right, Blake, we've reached it. Top 3 targets. Give it to me.
Give it to me, Neil. Neil, I've got the top 3 targets right here, Neil. You're waiting for this, so I'm going to give it to you. Jake Sanderson, got to go him first. I mean, I do think he's kind of, at the top of the value where I'm interested in taking him. I'd rather take him a little bit later, but I feel like the floor is very solid there. Drake Batherson's my number 2. Just like what I got there, if he can put it all together, even strength power play, and we're looking at a 70-point player. And then Timmy Stutes. I got to give Timmy Stutes some love because Nate's just pooping all over the man. Oh, God. But yeah, I like him as a point per game player. I feel like the minutes are there. He's a big part of this offense here. And if they do kind of go to a more kind of creative offense, I think Timmy Stutes is going to eat. So that's my top 3 there.
For myself, Jake Sanderson, number 1, Drake Batherson, number 2. Love both of these players. They are being, I would say, appropriately valued this year, but still like the players enough to take them where they're being drafted. And Dylan Cousins, I just think there's upside here, which is not something that a lot of the other players have, just by virtue of being the newest member of the team. I think that there's just some unknowns about what he might be able to do this year, and that's at least a little bit exciting. Well, Blake, we've made it to the end. To any viewers or listeners still with us, find that description, join the Discord community. You will not regret it. Everybody talking fantasy hockey, sharing news, talking about the latest bit of news, the scraps that we get in August all the time. So join us there. Again, like, rate, review, subscribe, whatever you can do for us there really does help us out. But that is going to be all that we've got for this episode. Hopefully it brought you some value, helped you get a little bit better at fantasy hockey today.
It did.
All the advanced stats you heard today came from Natural Stat Trick, terrific free resource. All the micro stats you heard today came from All 3 Zones, terrific paid resource. Many thanks to the band there for supplying music for the podcast. Be sure to check out their Spotify as well. And that's it, folks. Much love.